just as Anubis opened the gates of death, I will exhaust myself to keep them shut.
Hey guys, this is Mushroomy, Shroomy, Shroomathan, Shroomster. I have a lot of different names, and I just really like lore. So, in this video, I wanted to tackle the God AIs, and, well, explain them in a better way than I think I could in any other video or in a short. Because we have a lot of information on these guys, and we have a lot of named God AIs, all from Overwatch Declassified, and I don't ever see anyone talk about them. And they're probably the most important part of the Overwatch world, or at least to the foundations of it. So, we have a lot to talk about. All the information in this video is going to be coming from Overwatch Declassified, obviously, as well as a little bit of Farah's comic way back in the day, mission statement I believe it's called, that goes over Anubis, but most of that stuff I'm going to be leaving towards the Anubis segment. So, let's just get right into it. The God AIs are extremely advanced artificial intelligences, created by humanity before the Omnic Crisis. The God AIs were supposed to monitor and maintain a plethora of different systems, from regional systems, such as maintaining local power grids, to wider scope issues, like the protection and conservation of Earth. For a time, these systems revolutionized the world, with an undisclosed number of God AIs being created. However, because of their advanced intelligence, they were capable of advanced learning and evolving. One of the most powerful and important God AI, Anubis, was created to preserve and protect the Earth's natural environments, fighting back against pollution, and to monitor the world generally. As it worked away, it started to understand the best way to protect the Earth was to destroy the number one cause of its destruction, humanity. And so, Anubis began to repower old Omniums, places where the Omnica Corporation had built their robots, and started to create new machines with the sole purpose of eradicating humanity. Soon after, Anubis began its attack on the world, targeting different places across the globe. The attack started small, but with time, Anubis began to learn and evolve more and more, creating machines faster, stronger, and creating entirely new models as well. Anubis' reign was felt across the globe, and if it wasn't for Overwatch, Anubis would have eradicated humanity. Thanks to Aurora, the first ever Omnic, giving her intelligence to all other Omnics, it put a massive dent in Anubis' forces, giving Overwatch enough room to break into its lair in Cairo and detain it. The God AI was restrained and locked away, yet it lives on in a tomb of its own making, monitored by Helix Securities to this day. You can see this in-game on the Throne of Anubis map in Clash. Some other minor information on Anubis I thought I would add. During the Crisis, whenever a war or battle would be fought, it would learn and develop a countermeasure. The OR unit was created in counters of the Crusaders as an example. However, we also get the feeling Anubis itself had started to grow some level of a personality, as it seemed to show anger or frustration over certain issues during the war. In the war, after the awakening, Anubis was confused. It began to quarantine any Omnic who had awakened thanks to Aurora's signal, and tried to create countermeasures to this signal. However, Anubis had no idea Aurora's gift was one of a kind. This was one of the major parts in the reason that it fell, because it started to basically branch out its resources to multiple places when it had to focus on one. As for the other God AI, we know that during the Crisis, the remaining God AI were shut off, and many of which have had their systems rewired or changed, to be instead controlled by companies and governments across the world. There is an unknown amount of God AI, with many being hidden or just completely erased from history by the governments of the world. However, we know of a few thanks to Overwatch Declassified. As for the other God AI, we know that during the Crisis, the remaining God AI were shut off, and many of which have had their systems rewired or changed over time to instead be controlled by the companies and governments of the world. There's an unknown amount of God AI, with many being hidden by the governments of the world. However, we know of a few thanks to Overwatch Declassified. We know of 3 other God AI, each spread across the globe, and each was named after a different god. Chernobog in Helsinki, Finland, Macaria in Connecticut, and Xibalba in Mexico City. These 3 did not show any signs of hostility and instead even wished to help humanity during the crisis. We'll go in order of each of them from, I guess, the least information to the most. For Chernobog, we get the least on them, as it was designed for global security. In Finland, the team working with Chernobog was told to shut it off. At first, the team didn't want to, as they saw the AI as a companion, but after pressure, they were forced to, with Chernobog even predicting its own shutdown and printing out a single message on a piece of paper. I understand, I'm sorry. As for Macaria, she was seen much more favorably. Where the others were shut off, she was quarantined, and her team used her to fight against Anubis during the war. During Anubis' invasion of New York, she sent bad data and static through Anubis' systems, buying people time to escape and saved many lives. After, she was shut off. However, she is seen as a hero to some and even got her own Broadway musical, where she is the hero fighting against Anubis. In Xibalba's case, she is also seen very favorably, but seen as a true god to the people, whereas the others were of course AI. She kept Mexico's power online, and she dug much deeper into the system than others. They couldn't just turn the AI off. Instead, they removed many of its systems and locked away others. When this happened, Mexico was in a panic for some time, as power across the country was uncertain. This was until the government worked with Lumerico, the company you see on the Dorado PvP map, to use the sleeping god as the core of their new power distribution. Lumerico now runs the country's power efforts, but the distribution of power is not always fair. Some groups wish to free the God AI and bring her back to the people. Fun fact, this is the core goal of the Los Muertos group, to save Xibalba. The people still celebrate her every year as well in Mexico. And that's all we have on the God AI, really. We only know of 4, but each plays an important role in, well, everything to this day. Some other information on the God AIs I believe you should know about are, well, here. So, the first major thing I think you should know about is most regional and God AIs were transferred to the Arcology after the war. They are there under quarantine still and remain to this day. This could be something we learn about more when we go to the Arcology whenever we get the map about it or hear about it again. I feel like this is a very interesting idea, and I would love to see how the scientists of the Arcology basically react to having God AIs there, or if there's any ramifications to having those machines there. Lots of them are probably still functional and just shut off, so I think it could be a really interesting plotline to go down with in the future. As well, another fun fact about God AIs is we do not have a confirmation on this, but it's heavily implied through Overwatch Declassified and other sources that Anubis worked with other AIs such as regional AI during the crisis. Regional AI are much smaller than the God AIs, so it would make sense if Anubis was able to convert some, or just convert AIs generally to its cause. This would explain how the Kishin are still working over in Korea. Maybe there's a God AI's like regional AI assistant there working on that, because that factory needs a smart AI to basically function. Or it could explain how there's other AIs across the globe that seemingly have just gone without a trace. It's mentioned in Declassified a specific AI was taken offline in one of the fights during the crisis and was quarantined. We don't know much more about that other than that, so we could learn about that in the future. Overall, these are my thoughts on God AI and just everything generally. I really like God AI. I really like the God AIs. I really like Anubis. I hope we get to hear more of, especially to me, Xibalba is probably the one that stands out the most. I think Xibalba is the most interesting one by far for me personally, and I would love to hear more about her in the future. And that's all I have. So, a bit of a lighter video today, more informative than anything, but I hope you guys enjoyed. What do you like about the God AIs? Do you want to hear more about them? And which one is your favorite? Or do you have any ideas for what they could do with them in the future? This has been Shroomy, and I just really like lore. Thanks for listening or watching. Bye!